Welcome back, my amazing first grade artists. Eric Carle, Potted Flower Collage Part 2. The materials you'll need today are your art project from last week, colored construction paper, glue, scissors, a pencil, and some crayons. Alright, boys and girls, let's get started. Welcome back, boys and girls, for Part 2 of our potted plant from the Tiny Seed book from Eric Carle, Part 2 of our potted plant collage. All right, so now what you're going to need to have is you're going to need your project from last week that should be nice and dry and finished and ready to go for today. And then I want you to gather some construction paper scraps. And if you even have some patterned paper sitting around at home, you could use that as well. But I want you to go ahead and grab some different colors. You're going to need one color for the pot for your plants to sit in. You're going to need green to make 3 stems. And then you're going to need 3 different colors to use for your 3 different flowers. All right, so first thing we want to make is we want to create our pot for our plant to sit in. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw out a pot shape to make so that we can cut it out and use it for the pot for our plants to sit in. All right, so using a pencil, or you could even use a crayon if you trust yourself, but a pencil is probably best just in case you make a mistake. You can use an eraser, but I'm going to go ahead and use a crayon so that you can see it from the video. So let me get a dark crayon. I'm going to get black. And what we're going to do again with our 1 scrap of construction paper is we're going to create a pot. Now remember, I want your pot to be about half the size of the background to your paper. And I don't want it to be too small that we can't fit our 3 stems for our big flowers to come out of. So I want you to, here's how we're going to draw our pot. So once you have your piece picked out, at the top of your paper, you're going to draw a long, skinny rectangle. That can be the lip of the pot for our plant. So once you have your long, skinny rectangle drawn, we're going to go in a little bit, and we're going to put a little mark here. And then on the other side, we're going to go in a little bit, put a little mark here. We're going to use those as our guide marks for how big we want our pot to be. All right, so now using your crayon or pencil, from this first dot, we're going to make a diagonal line down, and on the other side we're going to make a diagonal line down. And I didn't make them touch because I don't want it to come to a point, because then our pot would not be able to sit flat. So once we have our 2 diagonal lines drawn, we're going to draw 1 straight line from the bottom to connect the 2 lines so that we have our pot. Now with your scissors, you're going to carefully cut out. Remember, always hold your scissors pointing out, not pointing in. We want our points to always point out. Cut away from you so that no accidents happen. Follow along your drawing line, and you're going to cut the outside lines for your potted plant. You're going to cut along the outside. Now, as you noticed, I did not cut off this top part. If you do accidentally cut off the top part, that's okay, because when we glue it back down, we'll be able to glue it back so that it matches. So it's okay if you cut off this top part, but if you didn't, then that's better, because I would like you to cut around the outside lines. All right, so once we have our pot ready to go, let's see, you know what, we can go ahead and glue it down. So get your glue stick. And you're going to flip your pot upside down, put glue along the edges, and you're going to glue your potted plant down onto your paper. And go ahead and match it to the bottom of your paper. So the flat line at the bottom, the straight line, is going to match along the bottom of your paper. And go ahead and glue your potted plant down, or your pot, I should say. Now you're going to get your green scrap of paper, and you're going to cut 3 long strips of green paper, and we're going to use these as our 3 stems that are going to come out of our pot. So go ahead and use your glue stick, and here's a trick. When you're gluing your stems down to your pot, if you peek back your pot, the top edge of your pot, just a little, you can slide your green paper behind it, and then you can measure how big, tall or long you want your stems to be. So remember, put some glue on the back and then peek it back just a little bit so you can slide it right in there. Glue. And now it's also going to look like our stems are coming out of our potted plant and they're not coming straight on top of it. So we want our green stems to be behind our pot. Go ahead and glue your 3 stems down. And now you're going to have your 3 pieces of paper. I went ahead and I'm going to use 1 piece that is patterned piece that I have, and then 2 regular pieces. If you don't have any colored construction paper, you can use regular paper and you can color your petals. That works too. All right, so now we're going to cut out the pieces for our flowers. Now, one thing that you could use as a trick is we're going to need to create 5 petals on each flower. So to create a petal, if you want to draw your own pattern piece to trace out, then get a little scrap of any kind of piece of paper and draw your petal shape that you want to use. You can draw it out first and then cut it out. And this is just a trick. If you don't want to use the same shape of petal for each of your flowers, you don't have to. But this is just a trick to help if you want to do it this way. And then once you have your petal pattern piece, then you could trace it out 5 times onto all of your pieces. And that way you don't have to draw all 5 at the same time. So go ahead, and if you want to make your pattern piece, you can make your pattern piece, but I want you to cut out. So if I were using this pattern piece, I would trace it 5 times because I want 5 petals for each flower. And then go ahead and cut all 5 of your petals for each color out. So go ahead and cut out 5 petals on each piece of paper. I'm going to go ahead and cut mine out really quick. Okay, so now you should have 5 pieces for each of your 3 colors. So let's see, I've got my 1 petal, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for one color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for that petal, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now you should have 15 petals total. Let's count them all out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, so let's do one color at a time. So I'll start with my purple. You start with whichever one you want to start with. And we're going to create a flower coming out of each of the stems. So you're going to start by adding glue to your petal, and you are going to glue down your pieces to create your flower. There's one. And you're going to go to your next one. Remember, put nice glue on the back of your petals. If they overlap on top of each other onto your other flowers, that's completely fine. And your last flower. Here's 4. And my last petal. Glue it down. And now you have your 3 flowers coming out of your pot. And I want you to set it aside. We have 1 more week to finish up and add our final details to our potted plant collage. Don't forget to put your project in your art box until next week. See you next time. Have a great week.